Hello everyone, hi again. So in this video again we are going to talk about 20th century English poetry. It is part 2. As you remember, in the first part we talked about symbolist poetry. Now in this part we are going to talk about war poetry. We will have 3 poems: The Soldier, Absolution and the Anthem on the Doomed Youth by 3 different poets. Now let's have a very quick introduction. What is war poetry? What is patriotism and anti-war in poetry, in literature? So war poetry, it talks about the First World War, not the second, but the first one. War poet is the poet that participated in the war. So this poet wrote his poems before or after the war, but this person participated in the war. So in this poetry we have nationalism, we have love for motherland, we have anti-war ideologies in poetry. So we have different ideas. We have poets that support war, we have poets that don't support war. So we have, so this is a very important note to mention. Poets in front line, in back line, and in between. Difference in their poetry. So, you know, in war, we have lines. If you are facing the enemy, if you are close to the enemy, you are in the front line. If you are so far from the war and destruction, you are in the back line. But of course, also there is let's say a station in this between 2 lines in between. So these 3 poems are in 3 different places. One is in front line, one is in back line, and one is in between. Now we will see how different their poems are about war. Now let's start. Our first poem is The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. It was written in 1914. As you can see, it has only 2 stanzas. It is a short poem. So I do have some notes here. So it is a patriotist and nationalist poem. It was written at the start of the First World War, so the poet didn't see the horrors of war. The poet is optimist about the war. He says that we will win. It is important to fight for your land. It is important to fight for your country. If you die, you go to heaven because you fought for your country. So we see a pure nationalist poem here in The Soldier. Earlier I mentioned that there are several positions in the war. So if you are in the back line of the war, let's say, as Robert Brooke, he was in the back line, and actually it was the beginning of the war, so there was not much horror. So he didn't see that much horror and destruction in the war. That's why he is so optimistic in his poetry. That's what we could say, actually, that he is so optimistic because he didn't see the real faces of war. And then about him, he was a very handsome man. So he was an ideal figure, an ideal soldier figure for the, let's say, British people, for a man to protect his land. He was an ideal man, an ideal person, because he's so handsome, he's so tall, he's a gentleman. So he is a man who protects his country. He's an ideal symbol of a perfect soldier. So in this poem, he glorifies England as if he talks about his beloved. So in the first part of the poem, at the beginning, as you can see, he say that if I should die, think only this of me, that there is some corner of a foreign field that is forever England, and a foreign land. So what does it mean by foreign field, foreign land? He will die out of England, outside England, but this land will be part of England, as his body will remain there. Because he dies outside England, this is not English territory, but because he was fighting there, and he is an Englishman, his corpse, his body, his flesh is English. So this land will become part of England because an English soul is remaining in this land. So that is why he's saying it is forever England, because the body will be laying there forever. Now the next part, important part, is flowers, air, rivers, and English heaven. So at the end of the poem here, you can see, oh, I think my video is covering it, sorry about that. At the end, in the second stanza, at the last line, he says English heaven. And then he talks about rivers, beautiful fresh air in the first stanza, flowers. So he describes England as if England is an heaven on earth. And then we continue with the word eternal mind in the second stanza, in the second line. Here you can see he says a pulse in eternal mind, a pulse in eternal mind. It starts, and I think this he starts, I think in this heart all evil shed away, a pulse in eternal mind, no less gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given. He is trying to say that he will be in the minds of people and his soul will be connected with England even after he dies, because he fought for his land. Now let's go to that's all about the soldier. Now let's go to the next part, next poem. The second poem is Absolution by Siegfried Sassoon. It was written in 1914. It was written in 1914. Sorry, it was written in 1917. So as you can see, it has only 3 stanzas. Again, a very short poem. This poem is very important because it is trying to compare the importance of nationalism, patriotism, and the horrors of war. So he is comparing these two, horrors of war and nationalism. So let's start. Patriotism and anti-war combined. Here he is in between. What we mean in between? He is not in front line and he is not in back line. He is in the middle of the, let's say, these two. That's why he sees the horror of war and he sees also the importance of war. He glorifies England and he is aware of the horror of the war. Another thing is that the poet is ironic. He's being very ironic in the poem. He loves England, yet he wants to show that reality of war. Again, he says that I love my land, but we cannot ignore the fact that war is a horrible thing and it destroys everything. It's a distraction. The word wise in the first stanza here, war is our source, war is our source, yet war has made us wise. What does it mean? Wise means that the experience they get from the war, the true face of war, the true face of war. So war is not something good. It is horrifying. It is terrible. That is what he's trying to say. But you only understand it by the time. You only understand it by the time. By the time you experience the war. Now then we have the word freedom here in the last line of the first stanza, and fighting for our freedom we are free. Yes, we mentioned that it is very ironic because in the word wise stands for the horrors of war, but the word freedom stands for that they need to get free, they need to fight in order to be free, otherwise you cannot be free. So it is important to fight the war. Now the second stanza itself completely, he tries to show in the second stanza that he tries to show the both faces of war and says that all horrors will pass in time. He says, as you can see here in the second line, and loss of things desired, all these must pass. He says that all the horrors of war will pass away. And then at the last stanza, at the last line, he says, time is but a golden wind that shakes the grass. So he's saying that time will heal all the destruction, all the things, all the horrors. Yes, war is horrible, but by that time people will forget about it. Time will heal the wounds of people, he's trying to say. So he says that in order to be, in order to have the word golden, the word grass shakes the grass. The word grass stands for freedom, for liberty of people. So he says that in order to reach this beautiful future, it is important to fight. It is important to have the war, win the war. Sorry. Now in the last stanza he says no less than others. In the last stanza, he says that soldiers want to live more like other people. They want to live like other people, but yet when they die, they will go to heaven. So he's saying that there was an hour. He is trying to say there was an hour when we were loath to part from life. We longed to share no less than others, no less than others. So what does it mean? When the time of departure comes, when they die, uh, they also think that why should we not live like other people, because it's our right to live. Why should I be a soldier and why should I fight? It is my right to live long like other people. He is trying to complain here, but at the same time now again he is again in this stanza, he also combines and he says that yes, if we want to fight, but we will go to heaven because we fought for our motherland. Alright, so that is all about Absolution. Now let's go to the last poem, Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. It was written in 1917, and here in this poem we can see completely anti-war messages, anti-war ideas. As you can see on the right side, it is just two stanzas. It's again a very short poem. So briefly, it is an anti-war poem. He was in front line. So the poet was in front line. Earlier we mentioned that being in different positions in different locations in war affected the way of their poetry, the messages, the ideas, the themes of their poetry. So he was in the front line. He saw the real faces of war. That's why he writes an anti-war poem. So the word cattle in the first stanza, you can see what passing bells for those who die as cattle. He says that the soldiers have no idea that they will be slaughtered like animals. The soldiers are going to be slaughtered like animals in the war. An animal, a cattle, when this cattle goes to the slaughterhouse, this cattle that has no idea where does it go, why it goes there. It has no idea. The same case is with the soldiers. The soldiers go, they march to the battlefield, but they have no idea that they are going to die, just like a cattle dies while it has no idea that it's going to die. And then we have different words. For example, we have raffles, rapid, battle, patter, dare. He is using consonants of harsh sounds to give the horror of the war. So he is using some certain consonants, means that using consonant sounds. It's a literary term. Consonants is a literary term. So he is using consonants in these lines, in some certain lines, to give a very harsh, for example, rapid, rattle, rifles, as you can see. So it gives a very harsh impression to the readers that it shows the horror of the danger of the war. No prayers, no bells. Here, no prayers, no bells, nor bells. So it means they only think about surviving. So the soldiers, when they are in the war, they are not thinking about anything else, but the only thing they think is to survive, is to save themselves, is to protect themselves. They don't think about God, religion, or anything else. What candles? There is no enough candle for all the dead soldiers who died in the war. So he is using, in the second stanza at the beginning, what candles may be held to speed them all. What does it mean? It means that there are so many dead bodies, there are so many soldiers, that so many people died, and there is not enough candle to burn for all of them, for all their souls, because the number is so huge, it is so high. Then in the second line we can see in the last stanza the word boys, which means that they are too young to die. These soldiers are just so young to die. Glimmers of goodbye, which it means here in this line, I think you cannot see because of my video, glimmers of goodbye. it means that their beloveds are their lovers are left behind, uh, and so they soldiers die, they depart from this world, but their beloveds are left here on earth. And then the last one, flowers, dusk, drawing down of blinds. So young people are flowers, and the dusk ends their lives and closing their eyes. It's a very beautiful line. It's very metaphorical. So the young soldiers at the end, in these last two stanzas, as you can see, the soldiers are flowers, and the war is the dusk, and their eyes are the blinds of the window. So dusk comes, which means the night comes. It means war happens. So flowers die when at night flowers, some flowers die. They close up. So dusk happens. Flowers die, which means soldiers die, and then their eyes are closed. So soldiers close their eyes as you close a window blind. All right, that was all for this presentation. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have learned something. If you have any questions, you can write below in the comment section. See you soon in the next section in part 3. Bye bye. Ciao ciao.